Where's the button? Okay.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the 2025 iteration of the Gerety Awards Jury Insight Session. For those of you who may not know this, the Gerety Awards are named after Mary Frances Gerety, the copywriter who in 1948 coined the slogan, "A diamond is forever," is the only awards, as far as I'm aware, that brings together an all-female jury of respected leaders to reward creative excellence in advertising and communications from a women's perspective. Sessions like these are held all around the world with international executive juries that comprise of agency leaders and brand leaders who determine a shortlist of finalists. The shortlist is then submitted to a grand jury, from what I know, of creative experts for final evaluation. The votes of the international grand jury will determine the Grand Prix, the gold, the silver, and bronze winners of the competition. Entries are judged on the originality of creative ideas and the quality of executions. Joining us today, we've got three fantastic leaders representing a larger jury for the Middle East and Africa at the Gerety Awards 2026. I've got with us, I'm going to go from my left to my right. So Vidya Manmohan, founder and creative chairwoman of We For Good, Damayanti Puryakasta, head of strategy, Manlomina, and Georgia Faturaci, have I said it right? Creative director and creative strategist at Edelman. Thank you, ladies, for joining us here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Anup Uman, editor of Campaign Middle East. Have the distinct pleasure on picking on the brains of these wonderful creative and strategy heads. Shall we dive straight into it? The first question that I'd like to ask this wonderful panel is, what does a piece of work need to have in order for it to stand out in front of a jury today? And has that changed in your perspective over the last few years that you've been on jury panels?
Who wants to go first? You didn't give us a breather. You said it all. Oh my God. So yeah, who wants to go? I'm okay.
Do you want to?
Damayanti, why
Okay,
don't you
sure.
start
Yeah,
it?
I'll go first.
We've appointed her as our spokesperson.
Because I'm very chatty and always have an opinion about everything. First of all, really, really happy to be in this session, and thank you very much, Anoop, for the introduction. I think nowadays, and from what we were discussing, and that kind of created the most conversation in our jury room yesterday, was the work that really resonated with us, the work that we felt were kind of moving the needle the most and really had impact, were the ones that showed bravery of the brand and commitment as well. I think, maybe a decade ago or a couple of decades ago, I think it was enough to have just this awesome idea that did something in one kind of part of the ecosystem. But what we were really excited about was the work that really kind of took, was brave for the client, whether it's because they were breaking category conventions or whether they found a loophole in a very kind of difficult market or category, or that they went against the grain, but they stuck with it. It wasn't just this one idea. They saw it through. They closed the loop on it, and they took it as far as they could take it. So that bravery and commitment, I think, really stood out from the conversations that we had.
Yeah, I think, and maybe I can add to that. In today's era where there's AI, and I mean, yes, there is craft and whatever. I think what went beyond is more of the human truth and the cultural relevance, and that probably played a bit more than the usual. So yeah, in measure, Georgia, I'd like to leave something for you.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised, not surprised, but I'm pleasantly surprised that I would have given the same answer that Amanti gave. I would have phrased it differently maybe, but it's so nice to see how we're all aligned. And I think, it is an always requirement that good work needs to surprise you, and then it has to be believable. That rightfully so, she called it bravery and commitment. And I think it's an ongoing thread, but maybe the reason behind it evolves as we do. And nowadays, I will say, is we've seen so much like the industry, it's evolved so much, consumers and creators, we just seen so much. And so because you've seen so much, something has to like capture the attention and feel extra smart or extra unseen for you to notice. But at the same time, we've seen so much. So we don't believe everything we see. And that was something we did question, and we did like speak with each other. And that was interesting because when sometimes where a scalability question arise, like scalability question or like commitment question, we all like explored it together. We gave each other the knowledge we had, and like, but it was nice to see how it's always going, but the motivation behind it changed. And I'm curious to see where like we all go together on this journey in the next years.
Absolutely. I think Georgia brought about a fair point there, because it was, yes, in such times, yeah, it's the bravest, right? But I think there's this fine line between brave, or a lot of brave work actually being overused as loud. It's just loud for the sake of being loud. And then we're to call it out and say, but there's no meat in it. I mean, it's not going beyond. And what's the purpose? And there were, I think quite a few pieces of work where we're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, let's talk about this. And we start talking about it. We're like, oh, that didn't go anywhere after that. And
Yeah.
there were
It's
quite
that
a few.
commitment, right? Like it stopped short from what it really could have been, or yeah, it's not bravery for the sake of it, but like,
Yeah.
is it coming at a cost to you? Or are you really doing something meaningful? I think we're just so much more savvy and attuned for, let's put it out there, things that just feel very much award chasers or versus real work, right? Like that's something that came up in our conversation a lot.
Yeah, which is very attuned in general than with all the award scene nowadays, where like just like consumers probably, juror as you can hear, but also award shows all around the world, they're trying to be much more selective in like actually putting out their work that proves commitment and not just smartness. And I think it's a journey we are all on together, and it's completely fine. I feel like before there was other requirement. We are all just excited from this beautiful industry. Let's see where we can shoot to the moon. And then we are just on a different journey. And now we know we can shoot to the moon. Now let's just make sure we land there, really. And that
Well, let's be grounded.
and that landing bring back, I don't know, innovation that we can all thrive. So it's not just for the sake of it.
Absolutely. Anoop, you're on mute.
Can I ask a question between this? Because it feels like there's a lot of, I mean, really nice words that have been thrown in here. There's bravery, there's commitment, there's human truth. You mentioned cultural relevance. I like the concept of something that is surprising, disruptive even, but yet believable, And you're right, we've seen a lot of very, loud campaigns, something that's, stands out or tries to be differentiated. But the question then is, where's the meat? Where's the effectiveness? And I want to pick up on this concept of what's a great idea from an agency perspective versus what moves the needle for the client, for the brand, for the business, for society, right? Because there is a part of the judging process that judges the originality of the creative idea, but there's also the other part which judges the quality of the execution. So if I could take that bit of what Georgia says, shooting for the moon but actually landing on the moon, um, did you feel that there has been a change, so to speak, where you have a few more campaigns that have actually landed and moved the needle than just be great and disruptive and loud?
I think it's a journey again we're all aware of. So I do think nowadays, especially after the last 2-3 years, agencies stop entering work that is just like random, like, this last minute 1 month campaigns that you want to scramble. I don't think there was a lot of that, like, which was nice. And then like you also need to understand it's a jury room full of people that have different skill set, different job description, and come from different geographies. So I think like the fact that we were questioning, like we were on this journey of like, oh, this is nice. And then, but why they did it? What was where they committed to it? It was also of discovery of like work. And sometimes we all land on the same conclusion, which I don't think we saw a lot of, there was no like scam work, but also it's also, we did disagree sometimes, by the way, on like, did you move the needle or not, especially on a pair of entries. I remember it very clearly. We were disagreeing in like, was it just like a stunty idea? While the other half of the room was thinking no, I think it was actually very inspirational. And also inspiration, by the way, for me, it's something that an idea can accomplish, but it has to do something. So I think the quality of the work was good, no scammy at all. Sometimes it would be nice to have more information about the case to be able to actually judge it properly. But we did all our best. We shared all information. I think overall the feeling around was we're very happy with the quality of the work, I think. But I'll let my my fellow jurors answer this.
Absolutely. Just to add to that, what was very interesting and that caught me unaware because I don't know, maybe when we started judging, we realized though we were called the Middle East cohort or MIA, right? So I thought we were going to judge work from the region. And then I was taken by surprise because we were judging work from all over. There was Thailand, there was US, I mean Canada, there was work from all over. And I was like, wait a minute, am I in the right, pool? And I think that was also interesting. And also because we're such a mixed bunch of people and we brought all our influences and all our journeys into the same room. It was just beautiful.
Especially I will say on some categories, because when it comes to like, I don't know, innovation, craft, or like I think it's easier to agree, but then you go on categories like humor. Oh my gosh.
That was
Yeah.
objective. It was like,
Yeah, I think that was the most agree to disagree, because again, it was an extremely positive conversation, but that was funny.
yeah.
That was very funny to judge, which is fair for a humor category.
Yeah. But I think overall we were like fairly aligned, especially to the thrust of your question around like, how do you make it more than just an idea? How do you get it to land, and how can it be effective? And I think for all of us, the starting question, especially for cases that had a bit more of a CSR angle, or maybe kind of like not a natural kind of client brief in a way, like it was really important for us to understand what is the problem that they're setting up, and is this really a problem? And are there other ways that we could have solved this better? It was the first thing that we were asking ourselves to then be able to judge, well, was this work really effective for the problem that you framed? And so it's so crucial to have that problem framed up in a way that is super interesting, but also really believable for us to then do the judging process, properly and with integrity.
And I
Yeah,
think also
they
one
were.
extra thing that was discussed in the room, which is important in the context of landing, it's also so true that it's like you do need a client that believes in it. Like sometimes you can have the best idea on the best problem or opportunity, and it's actually really, it's like the trajectory is all there, but the client fell short in believing in it, hence it turned into like a can't chaser. We did have, and I think like that is where it gets difficult to judge, because you is it actually like, you don't want to like diminish the value of the idea, because you do see the potential. And in a way, and this is important, I think, in a way, awarding it something could give the creative team or the agency team that little push for them to go back to client and say, look, you see has potential, we gotta roll out it on a scalability moment. And I think the best ideas, those that like win Grand Prix, are ideas many times where the client is like part of the team. I've seen it, I witnessed it with my own eyes. And so I do understand that sometimes it's so difficult, because commitment, it's the bit that it's on clients. And it's so important to get clients involved in seeing the work that it's done around the world. Case studies, not just for the sake of it, but to see results that creative ideas can bring to clients, and to think and just take them with us on this journey. And it takes time sometimes, but can actually pay off in the long term.
Absolutely. And I think we were very empathetic to call out, okay, this belongs to this category or this genre and this industry. And I think we need to be a bit more lenient when we judge work from this category and so on. So yes, absolutely.
There are two follow-up questions because there's a lot to, unravel from what you've just shared. If I'm reading between the lines, also there is something that Georgia alluded to, and there's another point that Damayanti alluded to that I want to just pick up and ask you as well, Vidya, and kind of shed a little more light on it. One was the fact that there are submissions that need to make their case a little better. Um, they and There was also this question of how you frame a problem, not just for the campaign, but also how you communicate that to the jury room. What's the problem that you are trying to solve? What's the How are you framing that? And are you communicating that not just to a consumer audience or to the world out there and solving it correctly, but have you got your point across to the jury room correctly? Um, from the deliberations that you have had, if you were to share a few pointers of how that can be done just infinitely better, slightly better, to make that conversation a little easier rather than people poking out in the dark and trying to figure out what you were trying to solve for. What's that piece of advice you would give them?
I mean, I can start. So something that I have always told like the strategists that work in my team is that you got to show me the drama. You got to show me that this problem is super important. It's super hard to solve. Here's why it's hard to solve. Like, make this problem feel important and make it feel hard to solve, right? And then that creative idea is going to be the unlock and like, wow, you solved this very hard problem and very important problem in a way that, is refreshing and ownable and distinctive, right? So I feel like you got to bring the drama. If there's no drama in the problem, I'm not going to care. And for me, that's like the crucial first step.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, again, now we can speak in the context of the categories we were judging, right? Beyond the storytelling on like how to take the audience in that case as on the same journey, you were hence to feel the same like kind of commitment to the piece, but also technically speaking, when you enter in a category like innovation, you need to make me understand the innovation that you're bringing to the table. There was some cases in which we got very excited and really got on board with the problem, really got on board. This is another way to tackle something. And then like there was a moment of silence and someone like said like, but how? I did not understand how. And maybe the how is there, but if you don't tell me like how you do that, then I feel like, okay, then did they do it or is it a scam? If you don't tell
Yeah,
me,
sure.
maybe the how prove the scalability of
Yeah.
it is a
Yeah.
question mark in it.
I
I do
think
wonder
there were
how many
instances
times.
where we misunderstood the
Yeah.
innovation. We thought something else was the innovation, and but something else was the innovation. And yeah, absolutely. I think quite a few under the innovation category fell short of us understanding what exactly was the innovation and
Yeah.
why is it in this category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if, I mean, I don't know if we do this as, agencies, but, should we show the case study videos to just like a normal person who doesn't live and breathe advertising? Are they going to understand the case study and like the crux of it, or is it just all,
Yeah.
in our language, right? I think that would be a good test to make sure that this, captures the heart and minds of just normal people. If you do, then you're golden.
Yeah.
I think back in the days we used to call it the mom test, but I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
That's the
exactly.
wife
that,
Yeah,
test.
yeah.
but
I do that
Yeah.
because she is so oblivious and innocently so to the world. Ask her who the president of India is or the prime minister of this country is. She probably wouldn't be able to name them. But I think that's the perfect consumer to see whether it resonates, because sometimes we get stuck in our own echo chambers with the jargon that we use, with the way we frame a problem.
yeah,
And because we think of a creative idea in a certain way, sometimes we give it that time of day, and we let it run. But I absolutely agree. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's good, and like you were saying, Vidya, the mom test, yeah.
And also sometimes it can open up something else. I'll give you an example. We did, for sure was one, I don't remember if it was more than one case, where we watched it 2, 3 times discussing it. And then someone said, you know what? I think this will be better in another category because the actual center point, it's not the core point of the category they entered it. I understand it looks like it, but if you go look at what actually makes it special or what could make it competitive or surprising or new in 2026, actually, I wish they entered it in another category. And this could come out of a conversation by showing the case to someone. Or, by the way, if I can give a trick, like my ex-mentor, when we discuss what are the strength points of a campaign, and we could discuss which kind of category we could enter it. I know it's a lot of work, but my generation is still doesn't shy away from it. But we were doing all cases. We were doing cases for 3 or 4 categories, and then we were watching them, and 1 or 2 will click more than the other ones. And that's when you watch your own work from someone else's eyes. And that's when like you really see what is the part that shines of it. It's a lot of work. I'm not saying everyone should do that, but give all the data you can. Make sure that the jury room understand what you think is special in your idea. Remember that there is different people from different walks of life, and they all need to understand why that is innovative, and maybe they're not on a creative or tech side of the business, or maybe why that is inspirational because maybe they are more businessy or rational. Like you really give all the information so that anyone in the jury room can completely understand and actually champion your idea if you think it's strong. And secondly, make sure you enter it in a category that instead of like going carpet entering, like focus it, understand the strength and invest in it, because if you do carpet enter it in everything instead of the same amount of money in that category, you're the person who's not believing your case is actually strong in something, you know?
Yeah. And I have to say, it's been a pet peeve of mine in other awards juries as well. Like, if I feel like this is just a completely wrong category, like it's an ick. It's definitely an ick. So yeah, do the time and invest properly for the right categories.
Yeah, great piece of advice.
I'll move on. There's another thing that I want to pick up on from what we've already spoken, and that's the client's buy-in, the client's investment in it. Because, I mean, given the the time and the place that we're in right now, there is, and understandably so, seemingly an over rotation towards performance outcomes, towards, where's the ROI on this, where's the ROAS on it, where's the business outcome, is this going to move the needle on Q1? Is this going to move the needle on H1? And there's that immediacy of outcome that people are looking at. But sometimes, and this is something that we've spoken in our CMO roundtables that we've had multiple times, is you need to let the work breathe a little bit, and give it its time of day. You see some of these, the fruition of some of these campaigns come up in a month's time, in 6 months' time, in a year's time sometimes. And I want to pick back on that fact that the clients have permitted that work to breathe in a certain category, or to live its shelf life, and to find its fruition. So, and Vidya kind of alluded to it, saying that in certain categories where you felt that client buy-in, the client support, you've given it a little more time of day. Is that something that we need to take into consideration a little more, given that everything is based on business? Sometimes we award clients that have stepped up on brand as well.
Who wants to go? So just to understand, are you talking about it from an entry or an awards perspective, or are you talking about, because there are many sides to this.
Both sides, because the winning the award itself is good for the brand as brand, but also the work itself being brand oriented, CSR oriented, long term oriented in its visualization and its strategy execution and outcomes, rather than just a quick business turnaround.
I think it's about relationship, by the way. I think 100% of the amount of work a client and an agency does, it's not 100% of work that's going to go for awards, right? And I think it's about also agencies being mindful where to push and where not to push. because you got to show to the client that you understand all of their needs. Sometimes their needs are about quick wins and just straight thing, and don't overcomplicate it, and like do it right. Understand, you need to understand what they need, and then you need to show them you understand and you're able to deliver. But then slowly, when you gain their trust, they will be open to it. Like, if you keep on pushing and every time, I think it's about that. But also, like, I did see in the latest years many agencies putting aside some budgets to take more clients to awards shows, to do not just to see the work, but to listen to the talks, and to see the ecosystem and to speak, and just not make them feel that award shows is something just between us, just for the sake of it, but rather it's a platform where there is an ecosystem that believes in communication, innovation, public relationship, and advertising as a tool to solve problems and create cultures, and it's a shared thing. And I think that's really important, because then it's an objective, not to win an award, but to create sometimes specific kind of work that it's at the maximum level we can reach. And that's then what you want to enter in an award show. Like, so I think it's important to open up our award platform to clients, make them feel involved, and make it feel as a platform of people who believe we can do something meaningful, not just in CSR, in culture, in people mind, in trust, relationship. And then I think the client buy-in will be easier, because it's not an outsider being involved last minute, and you're playing with their brand without them knowing it. But it's something we want to achieve together, which is excellence and commitment and moving the needle.
Absolutely. And I would say it's going with your gut, and seriously, there's no one size fits all. It's like Georgia said, it's a client agency relationship, and when you're ready, you know it, and it's time to enter. Because we've also seen when it's not time for that work to actually have brewed, and you've entered it either too fast or you entered it too late. And it's there is no, like, what'd you say, a way of doing this. It's always through learning. I mean, some people have done it just for awards, and like you said, it's only for, I don't know, for awards, and as a result of the awards, it's actually helped the brand move the needle on the other side, vice versa. I mean, we've seen it all. So yeah, if you ask me, I don't know if there is a formula to this, but we'd say give it the time, yeah, let it brew. And when you're ready, when the client is ready, again, taking clients for award shows and letting them learn, and, going on the journey with them, and with the pace of change that's happening, there is no school teaching anyone anything. It's about working together, going with everyone's guts collectively and saying what's the right thing to do, and making mistakes and learning along. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to add. I think it's as Vidya was saying, it's not a one size fits all. You got to understand, like, what is the problem that the client's asking you to solve. Is there another problem really underneath it all to solve, that then kind of opens up another opportunity. But all of that kind of comes back to good relationships with our clients, right? Good relationships are going to lead to good work. Bottom line, no
And
matter
just being
what.
honest about it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many times that, clients have come to us, and it's work that we've done. I mean, we all are proud of our babies, but a million times have said, this is not fitting for an award. This wasn't done with that in mind. And, so I think we should all be honest and not waste anyone's money or effort.
I
Or
like
our
that. Okay, I'll move on. We've spoken a lot about the awards in itself and the jury and the work and everything that makes that work great or that has room for improvement. But I want to speak on the jury room experience itself, right? Two questions here, and one, you don't find many jury rooms that are formed in this manner. So I want to ask you. The first question would be, what about this jury room stood out for you? What made it different? And what was that experience like?
So I wouldn't want to say it was an all-women room. I mean, I think it is what it is, but I think the criteria is the same as any award show. It is about the beautiful nuggets or the insights, or like Damayanti said, was there actually a reason or a tension or an ick that, you wanted to actually solve? Yes, and it was about craft and all of that. I think everything was the same, but I think it's basically the lens that we come from helps ideas rise to a different, or the kind of ideas that rise, and this was just my observation. I felt it was very different the way they rose across different categories, and that was very interesting to see, and as a result of the conversations as well. So yeah, I think that's, for me, that's what made the difference, I'd say.
I mean, to kind of talk about the how this jury room felt different to others, it was definitely more intimate. I think it does help when I think we were about 10 or 11, right? Like I think that helped, that so everyone had a voice. I think, large jury rooms of like, 15 plus, there's going to be a bunch of them that just kind of tune out because there's always going to be, those people who are talking more like me, maybe. Um, but I think we were just, and it also we were just naturally very respectful of each other and making sure that everyone had their airtime, and Vidya did a really great job in making sure that people got to be heard. Um, and I think we were also good at knowing when to move on, like not just carrying on the conversation for the sake of it, because so no, it was a really nice no drama kind of jury room where we had, every comment kind of moved the conversation along. And, then we moved on to the next, and everyone had a really valid point and respectful. And we also kind of laughed, and there was honesty. And I didn't feel there was any moment where someone was saying something for either the sake of saying something or because it sounded good. To use a very overused word, it felt genuine and just felt real and normal as well.
I'm super sorry because I'm outdoor. First of all, I want to know, can you hear me? Because I had to move from, okay. I also need to say that on top of all they said, and I completely agree with all of it, but also the way the judging works in the specific award, I've been thinking about it the days after, and I felt like, usually the reason why people are really also loud and more stuck in their own opinion is because you have to close on a shared decision in that moment. And if you are coming from a very different spectrum than someone else, and someone is sharing a different opinion, you have no time to digest it. You have no time to you are here, they are here. You have no time to think. So sometimes you might either get stuck in a deadlock or just not meaning it and just settling it. But when the jury room, it's about sharing perspective, sharing information, and sharing opinions on things, and then you do have 1 or 2 days to think about it. That's when it's more meaningful what you settle with, and I feel like it was a very nice change, and it's really womanly, I would say, because you don't want you do want to think about it, and you do want to like make sure you understand that your vote carry a weight, and you have a responsibility not just towards someone who put effort in an entry, but also to the industry. And so I really felt it was just nicely complementing the fact that everyone was very open to listen, like, I want to understand your opinion. Interesting that I don't agree, tell me more, and someone else will pitch in, and then it stays with you, and then you can make a really thoughtful decision on what's your final agreement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would second that. And I think what initially looked like, oh, this is awkward. I mean, this is weird because we haven't done this at any other award show. I mean, where's the raise of hands and where's the vote and close the vote and all of that and the stress and the pressure that comes with that. And here it's like, oh, we're just having quality discussions. You can all
Mm,
go back
yeah.
home and decide on your vote. So that felt a bit. So obviously, because I have a Nemo brain, I was like taking down notes because I was like, when I go back home, but it was so good that just like Georgia said, it gives you time to like be responsible for those votes. And there's so many that I had to change because after all
Yeah.
those big discussions, and it gives you time. And I think that was actually one of the strengths of Gerety.
Yeah, we had like 2, 3 days after the voting, after the session that we can go and change. And so,
Till
yeah, I
end of
think
the
like the
week.
lack of needing to take a position, right? It was just as Georgia was saying, we were sharing perspectives and
Yeah, because
listening.
there's so many times, right? After you come out of the judging room, you're like, damn, I just got carried away by that person, and I shouldn't have. But then you had to vote in the spur of the moment. But yeah, I think this is the beautiful part of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
I'm
love that.
usually the person that carries the other away, so I don't have that problem. But this time I had the opposite problem. I did change my vote during the session because I didn't want to forget it. It just really removed the pressure of like coming in to defend an opinion. And I remember I said, yeah, I do understand it better now. I will change. I remember Damayanti saying she will like think about it. Like it was nice. It's a
Yeah.
testament to how thoughtful the process is and how open-minded to actually understand perspectives and different like cuts that an idea could have. And it was really refreshing.
Wonderful. Now we move to the last part, which is without mentioning any work specifically, and this I have to make this disclaimer because the actual winners have not been announced yet. At this point, probably by the time this article is out or this people are watching it at a later stage, just know that at the time of this discussion, the winners aren't out yet. But if I had to ask the jury, what not what piece of work, but what about the work stood out to you the most? That's the first part of the question. And the second part of the question is, um, after having gone through this entire jury experience, what's your top takeaway from it overall? Like, that's something that absolutely got you thinking, and you just alluded to it as well, is things that made you think twice. So, something about the way you approach the jury, the work, the problem, the strategy. Um, what was one or two of your top takeaways from this process?
You've asked a lot of questions in one question, but typical Anup. Um, I think that's quite a bit. Yeah, firstly, I think if I were to summarize it, some of the, just the way Garrity was set up and the fact that, by the way, I don't think any of us know what's the winning work here, so we're absolutely fine because there's going to be another session where all the jury presidents from around the world are coming together, and then so I don't know either. Um, but I think right from how the categories were set up, where there not 1,200 categories, there were just a handful. That was easier to navigate, and it was just easy that, oh, okay, it's between the 5 or 6 categories, and yes, there were subcategories. So it was, I think, super clear. Humor was a category, right? Which I thought was interesting. Um, yeah, between all of that, and I think the judging process itself, the fact that we didn't feel pressurized, that we came into the final round of voting that we thought, for our cluster it was. We didn't have to do a yes and a no or a show of hands or vote. That was quite nice. Just from a process perspective, and categories and just the way it was structured. Yeah, everything felt really grounded and easy, and like there were instances where we were actually trying to build the work and say, oh, they should have just defined it this way, and we were actually cracking the, trying to, and then we were like, okay, I think we're, yeah, I wish someone was recording it and they could pass it on to, yeah, whose ever work that was. So I think those were all the really heartwarming bits for me personally, where it just felt really nice that though it was hybrid, we had half of them online and half of us in our office because we hosted it there. But it was really nice that we were able to collect ourselves and come together, though it was for a few hours and just a few of us. So I think for me personally, these were the takeaways, and I think it was very special, and it was quite different from the other jury shows that I've attended, and yeah, I would uh, I would take these as special moments for myself, ladies. You
Georgia?
probably need to ask that which part of the question you want
Yeah.
us to answer again.
Yeah.
I'd say both. So there are two basic questions. One is what part of the work stood out to you the most,
Yeah.
to simplify the question, and the second bit is what's your personal takeaway from this experience?
Okay.
I think one also, now that I mention it, I think the ladies will remember. One interesting thing that was a takeout of 2026 and Gerety Award was we did, and now this sounds like, sorry, I was about to say it and then I heard it from outside of my body. Please bear with me. Use of AI, like there were, like I know it's a recurrent topic, but it is a recurrent topic for a reason. Like there were very different cases that approached it from different sides. There was like cases that pushed a bit to try to give different meaning to AI feature, meanings that are much more emotional and can connect with people on different levels. So they try to like turn AI into an experience. There was other cases that trying to put order and process around topics of AI. Like it was interesting. It was not, of course, to all cases. But it was interesting how it started to become a recurring topic through all different things. At Edelman, we were constantly trained on AI. So like, it's just like I started to see what I've been trained on a daily basis in the work that is already being produced. And it's nice because instead of seeing it as a bad thing, I felt part of like something in the making on a global level, and it was very nice. So this is one, it was super nice, as Vidya said, that there were less categories for us to judge. Hence, we could actually look at all the material that was sent. That's why I was saying I wish they sent much more data and much more information, because I need to say this is an award that really jurors can take the time to go through all the material, and I find it meaningful. It's interesting that how it works, that Vidya will go on and bring the Middle Eastern perspective, which is nice. Like it's women, but also where we like the place where you work, it's a different environment. Um, from my side, I think I will come out of it, since the conversation was much more open and ongoing. I come out of it from my own learning, remembering how beautiful it is that we are all different, and from the places in life where we are, and to the skill set, to the opinion. And when I work, I always need to remember that like what matters to me might not matter to someone else, and that's completely fine. Like that's completely fine, doesn't diminish the fact that it's meaningful what I do, and that like we are all pieces of puzzle that we're building something together. And it was very nice, from different countries, from different pace of life. And I know we were all women in the jury, and that felt particularly exciting. Like I've never participated in a only female jury, and it felt so relaxed and so familiar. And I think you're just in a better mindset to be constructive. Also, Vidya was an amazing president. They hosted us. It was challenging because we were half online and half offline. We got the jury in a moment where Middle East, there is a difficult, as you know, um, difficulty, but it didn't feel like it. Like it felt like a beautiful deja vu from more easy times, and also it felt new and modern. So I felt refreshed. I'm very excited to like see the outcome. I'm very excited to like contribute more in the next years. And sometimes you do need this refresher, even if like you're 20 years into the industry. So very good.
My 2 cents. So, I mean, work that kind of really stood out for me. I mean, yeah, it's the bravery and commitment again, but like, ultimately, don't be dull. And the work that wasn't dull, that surprised me, that went there. And really importantly, that they showed up for their audience. Like when you can see a piece of work that really showed up for that particular brand's audience in a way that felt really truthful in culture, in an entertaining way, that completed the loop, it's really heartening to see that work. So that kind of stuff stood out for me on the work side. And in terms of the experience, I mean, everything that Vidya and Georgia was saying, it was such a lovely experience. I think, having much more of a tightly curated set of work to look at meant that we could do the work justice. We could have that conversation. We, as Georgia said, we wanted to kind of learn more. So there's an opportunity of maybe just, having a fuller package for each work. And yeah, I think the conversations were great. And we weren't rushing through it as something to just get over, so I think we were really doing it responsibly and in a way that kind of made us enjoy being in this industry in a way, because we're talking about creativity, we're talking about what things really resonate versus doing a tick box exercise. And cheesily, I think, I met, people that I genuinely like, so that's always good.
Yeah, it was also nice that we didn't know each other, but because, we are all from the same region, we kind of knew what each other was most skilled at, which also that was very nice. So we could like call out specific people on specific cases to have a more in-depth opinion, which I think is very nice. And it's still a testament on how you need to be humble in knowing that you cannot understand or like or comprehend or like everything, but someone does. So you can always be open to listen before you judge, be open to listen, take your time to think it through, and then you actually can represent all the people that you are tasked to represent with your vote. And this is like something I will try to impose myself in all future juries, that the format allows it or it doesn't, as much as I can.
This has been such a wonderful discussion. What a wonderful way to wrap up as well. Thank you so much to each of you for your genuine contribution to not only helping the industry move forward, but showcasing the work and giving it that time of day, and for the time and effort that goes into such initiatives outside of our daily grind of work and home. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, and more interestingly, listening to each of you and your perspectives. It's There's a part of me that wishes I could have been a fly on the wall in that actual jury room as well, because it sounds very, very warm, welcoming, safe, and feels like everyone did get a chance to say their piece at the right time. Um, that's it for now. For all of you watching, stay tuned for more coverage and the actual winners once the international jury presidents have their say. That's all for now, and until next time, goodbye.
Thank you.
so much, Anup.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Georgia and Damayanti, as always.
See you soon. Bye.
From mute. Click Anup.